Emma, a 28-year-old painter, stood at the edge of the pier, staring out at the turbulent sea. She had returned to this town after a painful breakup, but the true reason for her homecoming was a haunting mystery that gripped her heart. The boy she had loved, the one who had ignited her passion for art, had betrayed her in a way that shattered her trust. Now, each crashing wave felt like a reminder of her lost love and the unresolved questions that lingered in her mind. As she watched the waves swell and recede, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something dark loomed beneath the surface, both in her heart and in the town itself. Memories of the past flooded back, stirring a restless curiosity within her. She thought of the vibrant streets filled with laughter and creativity, where she and her friends once roamed freely, unaware of the shadows that could creep into their lives. Returning to her hometown should have felt like coming home, but instead, it felt like stepping into a ghost story. The familiar cafe where she used to sketch and sip coffee was now a place of muted conversations and sidelong glances. The barista, once a beacon of warmth, seemed to notice Emma's turmoil, offering a half-hearted smile as if sensing the weight of her sorrow. Emma could barely muster a response, feeling like an outsider in her own life. Compelled to seek solace, Emma wandered the town, searching for something to rekindle her artistic spirit. She made her way to the local art gallery, a place once vibrant with creativity, now shadowed by the absence of her late mentor, Sarah. Sarah had been more than just an art teacher. She had been a guiding light in Emma's life, nurturing her talent and urging her to explore the depths of her creativity. Emma felt a chilling emptiness as she stood in front of Sarah's masterpieces, which seemed to cry out for her to embrace her passion once more. But the memories of Sarah brought a mix of comfort and grief, leaving Emma questioning whether she could ever regain her artistic voice. Each painting seemed to whisper unfulfilled dreams and lost potential, reminding her of the betrayal that had left her adrift. As she left the gallery, Emma's heart raced with a mix of anticipation and dread. She spotted a familiar gathering near the town square, her childhood friends, their laughter ringing out like a siren song. Among them was Jake, her best friend since childhood, who had always been her anchor. But the thought of facing him filled her with anxiety. Their friendship had become tangled in the web of her heartbreak, and she feared the conversation that could unravel everything. As she watched Jake laugh, a wave of longing washed over her. He had always been her safe space, the one person who saw her for who she truly was. But could she let him in again after everything that had happened? What if he was not just a friend, but a doorway back into a world where trust had been shattered? Determined to reclaim her life, Emma made the brave decision to attend a local art show where Jake was showcasing his work. The thought both exhilarated and terrified her. Would she find the strength to confront her feelings, or would the past drag her under like the relentless tide? As she prepared to step into the art show, her heart raced with uncertainty. The evening promised to be a pivotal moment, an opportunity to rekindle her passion for painting, and perhaps unlock the door to her own healing. With the sun setting behind the waves, casting long shadows on the town, Emma took a deep breath, sensing the weight of both her past and the possibilities ahead. The coastal town, with all its beauty and hidden darkness, became a backdrop for her journey. A journey filled with secrets, grief, and the lingering hope for love and redemption. In the depths of her heart, she knew this was just the beginning. The night of the art show arrived, cloaking the coastal town in a veil of darkness, broken only by the flickering lights strung along the streets. Emma stood before her mirror, anxiously adjusting her attire. A simple flowing dress that hugged her curves, but felt foreign against her skin. She felt like a ghost of her former self, trapped between the girl who once danced through life and the woman haunted by betrayal. Tonight was not just an art show, it was a reckoning. With a final deep breath, Emma stepped outside, the crisp night air biting at her skin. The sky was a blanket of stars, glimmering above like tiny pinpricks of hope. She took a moment to admire the beauty of the night, but the chill of apprehension crept into her bones as she approached the gallery. Would she find solace or sorrow in the faces of her friends? As she walked down the familiar path, shadows seemed to loom larger than life, whispering echoes of past laughter and friendships that had faded in the light of betrayal. With each step, memories flooded her mind. Moments of joy shared with Jake and their friends, now tainted by a sense of loss that wrapped around her heart like a vice. The closer she got to the gallery, the more she felt the weight of unspoken words pressing down on her. Upon arriving at the gallery, Emma paused at the entrance, her heart pounding. She could hear the distant murmur of voices and the clinking of glasses, a reminder that life continued, indifferent to her pain. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, immediately enveloped in a warm glow. The walls were adorned with vibrant paintings, each one a testament to the artistic spirit that once thrived in this town. As she scanned the room, her eyes locked onto Jake, who stood near his display, animatedly discussing his work with a small group of admirers. He looked handsome, with a confidence that contrasted sharply with the boy she had known. Her stomach twisted with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Would he even recognize her? Would he still want to talk after everything that had happened? Emma made her way through the crowd, her heart racing. Each step felt like a journey through a minefield of emotions. Just as she reached the center of the gallery, the lights flickered ominously, momentarily plunging the room into darkness. A collective gasp echoed, and murmurs of confusion rippled through the crowd. In that instant, Emma's pulse quickened. Was it an accident or something more deliberate? As the lights flickered back to life, Emma's eyes darted around the room, seeking any sign of danger or disruption. The atmosphere felt charged, almost electric, and a heavy silence descended as everyone instinctively shifted closer together. She spotted a group of people whispering in the corner, their expressions anxious, and her curiosity piqued. What were they discussing? Jake, looking slightly rattled, stepped away from his admirers and scanned the room. His gaze landed on Emma, and for a brief moment, time stood still. A flicker of recognition passed across his face, quickly followed by something deeper, an intensity that sent shivers down Emma's spine. He started to approach her, but before he could reach her, a loud crash echoed from the back of the gallery, sending a jolt of alarm through the crowd. The noise pulled everyone's attention away from their conversations, and Emma's heart raced. Was this part of the art show, or was something sinister unfolding? Jake's expression shifted to concern as he turned toward the source of the commotion, and in that fleeting moment, the tension in the room became palpable. Emma, feeling a mix of dread and intrigue, pushed her way through the crowd to see what was happening. She caught glimpses of worried faces and heard fragments of conversations filled with urgency. What was that? Did someone fall? The questions spiraled, but no answers came. As she reached the back of the gallery, Emma found herself face to face with a broken easel and scattered canvases, the artwork splattered with paint as if someone had thrown a tantrum. But it wasn't the mess that caught her attention. It was the figure standing beside it, a woman she didn't recognize, wild-eyed and trembling. What happened? Emma asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The woman looked at her, fear etched into her features. I saw him, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. I saw Isaiah's ghost. Emma felt a chill wash over her, the mention of Isaiah's name sending shivers down her spine. The room grew silent, everyone turning to listen to the woman's story. He was here in this very room, she continued, her eyes darting around as if expecting to see him materialize. I swear it. The crowd erupted into a mix of skepticism and fear, and Emma's heart sank. Was this woman merely a victim of her imagination, or was there something darker at play? The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife, and every glance exchanged among the attendees felt loaded with implications. In that moment, Emma realized that this art show, meant to showcase creativity and beauty, had transformed into a stage for secrets, betrayals, and the lingering presence of a past that refused to die. Would she unravel the mystery surrounding Isaiah's ghost, or would she be swept away by the undercurrents of grief and regret? As her gaze met Jake's across the room, she saw a flicker of determination in his eyes, and she knew then that their reunion was not just about rekindling old flames, but confronting the shadows that loomed over them both. With the haunting words of the stranger echoing in her mind, Emma felt a newfound resolve. Tonight was no longer just a reunion. It was a quest for the truth, a journey into the heart of their intertwined fates, and perhaps a chance to reclaim the trust that had been so brutally shattered. The night was just beginning, and the ghosts of the past were not done revealing their secrets. As the woman's unsettling revelations settled over the gallery like a heavy fog, whispers rippled through the crowd. Emma's heart raced, each beat echoing the turmoil within her. Isaiah's ghost? It sounded absurd, but the energy in the room suggested something far more sinister was at play. People exchanged nervous glances, some backing away, while others leaned in closer, eager for details. The woman trembled, her hands clenching and unclenching as she scanned the crowd. "I swear I saw him," she insisted, her voice rising. "He was standing right there, looking at me with those sad eyes, as if he wanted to tell me something." Jake stepped forward, his brow furrowed in concern. "Are you sure? It's been months since." His voice trailed off, the weight of unspoken grief heavy in the air. Emma felt a surge of protective instinct toward him, wanting to shield him from the pain of that memory. Before she could react, the gallery's atmosphere shifted again. The lights flickered once more, casting ominous shadows across the room, and a chill slithered down Emma's spine. Was it merely a malfunction, or did it signify something deeper? In that moment, the tension escalated as a sense of urgency gripped her. "Let's get everyone outside," Jake said, his voice firm. "This isn't a safe environment right now." He turned to the woman, his expression softening. "Can you come with me? We need to talk." Emma watched as Jake led the woman away, her heart tugging at the thought of losing this moment. The crowd began to shuffle toward the exits, their murmurs filled with fear and uncertainty. She felt the need to follow them, to stay close to Jake, to discover what lay beneath the surface of their shared past. As she weaved through the throng, she overheard snippets of conversation, the rumors swirling like a storm. "Ghosts don't just appear, something must have triggered it," someone whispered. "What if there's more to Isaiah's death than we know?" Another voice chimed in, thick with suspicion. By the time Emma stepped outside into the cool night air, the crowd had gathered in a tight circle around Jake and the woman. A flickering streetlight cast an eerie glow, heightening the sense of suspense that enveloped them. Emma stood at the edge of the circle, her heart pounding in her chest, straining to catch every word. "I can't explain it," the woman said, her voice trembling. "I was just looking at the paintings, and then, it was like he was right there, just behind me. He wanted me to know something important." Her eyes darted around, filled with a mixture of fear and desperation. Jake's expression turned serious. "What did he look like? Did he say anything?" The woman hesitated, biting her lip. "He was sad. His eyes were filled with regret, and I felt like he was trying to warn me. But I couldn't understand what he wanted to tell me." She shivered, and Emma could see the beads of sweat forming on her forehead despite the cool air. As the crowd pressed in closer, Emma felt a strange sense of detachment wash over her. Was this woman genuinely disturbed, or was she merely seeking attention? The uncertainty gnawed at her, amplifying her anxiety. The tension crackled in the air, and Emma sensed that they were on the brink of uncovering something significant, perhaps even dangerous. Just as Jake was about to ask another question, a loud crash echoed from inside the gallery, sending everyone into a panic. Emma's heart raced as she glanced toward the entrance, where shadows flitted through the windows. "What was that?" someone gasped, fear rippling through the crowd. "Stay here," Jake instructed, turning on his heel and striding back toward the gallery. Emma hesitated for a moment, torn between the urge to follow him and the need to stay with the group. But the pull of curiosity, and the unsettling feeling that something was horribly wrong, propelled her forward. As she entered the gallery, the air felt thick with tension. The lights flickered sporadically, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Emma's eyes scanned the room, searching for the source of the noise. Her heart thudded in her chest as she spotted one of Jake's paintings toppled over, paint splattered across the floor as if a struggle had occurred. "What happened?" Emma called out, her voice rising above the chaos. "Over here!" A voice shouted from the back of the gallery. Emma rushed toward the sound, her stomach twisting with apprehension. She reached a small group huddled near a doorway that led to a dimly lit corridor. As she approached, she felt a strange sensation wash over her, a sense that they were crossing a threshold into something unknown. There was something more than just fear in the air. It was the unmistakable scent of hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. Jake stood at the forefront, his expression a mix of concern and determination. "We need to get to the bottom of this," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "If Isaiah is trying to communicate something, we can't ignore it." The woman nodded vigorously, her eyes wide with fear. "I have to know what he wanted me to say." Emma's heart raced as she stood at the precipice of discovery. This was more than just a reunion. It was a gateway into the complexities of their intertwined lives. Could they unearth the mysteries surrounding Isaiah's death and the secrets that bound them together? As they moved deeper into the shadows of the gallery, the air grew colder, and the sense of foreboding heightened. Emma felt an electric charge pulsing through her veins, propelling her forward. She was determined to uncover the truth, even if it meant confronting the ghosts of the past, her own and those of the people she once trusted. The night held endless possibilities, and as the darkness thickened around them, Emma knew one thing for certain. The answers they sought would come at a price, and she was ready to pay it. As Emma and the others stepped cautiously into the dimly lit corridor, the atmosphere grew heavier, almost palpable. The flickering lights overhead cast eerie shadows, distorting the lines between reality and the unknown. Each step echoed against the cold walls, a reminder that they were walking deeper into the heart of the mystery surrounding Isaiah's death. Jake led the way, his jaw set in determination. Emma followed closely behind, her pulse quickening with anticipation. What awaited them in the depths of the gallery? Would they uncover secrets that had been buried for far too long? Or were they treading on dangerous ground? "Over here," someone whispered urgently, breaking the tense silence. Emma glanced over to see a figure gesturing from a narrow doorway at the end of the corridor. It was hard to tell who it was in the dim light, but the urgency in their voice propelled her forward. As they approached, Emma's heart raced with a mix of dread and excitement. The figure stepped into the light, revealing itself to be the woman from outside, her eyes wide and frantic. "You have to see this," she said, her voice trembling. "I think it's where it all happened." The group huddled around the doorway as the woman gestured toward a small room beyond, its entrance shadowed and foreboding. The air felt charged as if the walls themselves held their breath, waiting for the truth to be revealed. Jake exchanged glances with Emma, his expression unreadable. "Are you sure about this?" he asked the woman, his voice steady but low. "It could be dangerous." The woman nodded, her determination resurfacing. "I don't care. I need to know what happened. I can feel it here." Emma felt a chill creep up her spine. What had this woman experienced in this place? A part of her was hesitant, aware that delving deeper might uncover something they weren't ready to face. But another part of her, the one fueled by curiosity and a desire for closure, urged her to move forward. Taking a deep breath, Jake stepped into the room, followed closely by the others. Emma's eyes adjusted to the dimness, revealing a small space cluttered with dusty furniture and scattered remnants of past exhibitions. An old easel stood in the corner, and the scent of linseed oil mingled with the mustiness of the air. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from the far wall, making everyone jump. Emma's heart raced, and she instinctively moved closer to Jake, seeking comfort in his presence. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the pounding of her heart. Jake narrowed his eyes, scanning the room. "Stay close," he warned, his protective instinct kicking in. "Whatever it is, we need to be ready." The woman stepped forward, her resolve unwavering. "I think I saw something on the other side of that wall," she said, pointing to a faded mural depicting a tranquil landscape. "It might be connected to Isaiah." Emma felt a surge of curiosity. What could possibly be hidden behind the mural? Was it a clue, or simply an artistic remnant of the gallery's past? The air felt charged with potential, and she knew they had to explore further. With a collective breath, they approached the mural. Jake gently pressed against it, testing its stability. As he pushed, the wall creaked ominously, revealing a narrow opening behind the painting. It was dark and foreboding, yet an irresistible force beckoned them to explore. "Should we?" Emma asked, glancing at Jake. The tension in the room felt electric, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of uncovering something significant. Jake hesitated for a moment before nodding. "We have to. This could be our only chance to understand what happened." With that, he led the way into the opening, Emma right behind him. As they stepped into the dark space, a chill enveloped them, sending shivers down Emma's spine. The air was thick with dust, and the scent of something ancient, as if time itself had stopped within these walls. As their eyes adjusted, they discovered a small, dimly lit chamber filled with remnants of the past. Old canvases were strewn about, some unfinished, others obscured by time. In the corner, a dusty trunk lay half open, its contents spilling out in disarray. Emma felt a pull toward it, the sense that whatever lay within could hold answers to the questions swirling in her mind. "Look at this," Jake murmured, crouching beside the trunk. He reached inside, his hands brushing against the worn fabric. "It's filled with old letters and sketches from Isaiah." Emma's heart raced as she leaned closer. She could barely make out the faded writing, but the name Isaiah sent a jolt through her. "Read it," she urged, her curiosity overwhelming her. As Jake pulled out a handful of letters, the tension in the air grew thicker. Each piece of paper seemed to pulse with significance, holding echoes of long-buried emotions and secrets. But just as he began to read, a distant noise interrupted them. A low, haunting melody wafting through the chamber. "What is that?" the woman whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Emma's heart raced. The sound seemed to resonate from the depths of the gallery, as if Isaiah himself were trying to communicate through the echoes of the past. "We have to see where it's coming from," she urged, her instincts kicking in. "Wait," Jake said, his voice low and urgent. "Let's stick together. We don't know what's out there." Emma nodded, her heart pounding as they followed the haunting melody deeper into the chamber. Each step felt like a descent into an enigma, an unraveling thread leading them further into the mystery of Isaiah's life and death. As they approached the source of the music, a flicker of movement caught Emma's eye, drawing her gaze to the far wall. Shadows danced and swirled, and in that moment she understood. Something was waiting for them in the darkness, and they were on the brink of unearthing a truth that had long remained buried. What lay ahead could either shatter them or set them free, but there was no turning back now. They had crossed a threshold, and the only way was forward into the unknown. As Emma and the others moved closer to the source of the haunting melody, the air felt charged with an eerie energy that heightened her senses. Shadows flickered and danced across the walls, playing tricks on her eyes, as if the very essence of the gallery was alive and watching them. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, yet the inexplicable pull of curiosity drove her onward. "Do you hear that?" Emma whispered, glancing around at her companions. The melody had grown clearer, a soft, sorrowful tune that seemed to echo from the very depths of their souls. It was both beautiful and unsettling, a siren's call pulling them deeper into the mystery. Jake stepped cautiously forward, his expression a mixture of determination and apprehension. "We need to find out where it's coming from," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma nodded, though her heart raced with trepidation. The narrow corridor opened into a larger room, its walls lined with canvases and remnants of forgotten art. In the center stood an old piano, its keys yellowed with age and dust. The melody floated from its depths, but there was no one there to play it. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she took in the sight. "Who would have left this here?" she murmured, stepping closer. As she approached the piano, the music abruptly stopped, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. It felt as if the room had been holding its breath, waiting for them to speak. "Maybe someone was just here," the woman suggested, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. "We need to look around." Jake moved to the piano, lifting the heavy lid. The dust that clouded the air shimmered in the dim light as he pressed a key, sending a hollow note reverberating through the room. But it was the note that followed, a soft echoing response that sent chills down Emma's spine. It was as if the piano itself was trying to communicate, sharing a secret buried beneath layers of dust and neglect. "Do you think it's connected to Isaiah?" Emma asked, her voice tinged with both excitement and dread. She felt a strange connection to this place, as if it were a part of the boy's story, waiting for someone to uncover it. Jake's eyes narrowed as he studied the piano. There might be something hidden here. Maybe he left a message? He began to sift through the pile of old sheets and forgotten music sheets scattered around, the rustling noise filling the quiet room. Emma, meanwhile, couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The shadows cast by the flickering overhead lights seemed to shift and coil around her, creating an oppressive atmosphere. I feel like something's not right, she admitted, glancing back toward the entrance. Like we're not alone. Don't say that, Jake replied, his tone serious. We have to focus on finding answers. This could be important. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and Emma spun around, heart racing. Was someone else here? The figure that emerged from the darkness was tall and cloaked in shadows, making it difficult to discern their features. The air shifted and the temperature dropped, intensifying the sense of foreboding. Who are you? Jake demanded, stepping in front of Emma protectively. The newcomer remained silent, their eyes glimmering in the dim light. Emma felt a wave of fear wash over her. This could be the moment they had been anticipating, the truth lurking just beyond their grasp. Why are you here? The figure finally spoke, their voice low and echoing like a whisper in the wind. Emma could barely make out the details of their face, but the intensity in their gaze held her captive. We're looking for answers about Isaiah, Emma said, trying to sound braver than she felt. We think he might have left something behind. The figure stepped closer, the shadows around them shifting like smoke. You should turn back. The truth you seek is not what you think. It will change everything. Emma's heart raced at the warning. What do you mean? She pressed, desperation creeping into her voice. We have to know. We owe it to him. The figure tilted their head, and for a brief moment, Emma thought she saw a flicker of recognition in their eyes. You think you're ready to face the past? There are layers to this that you can't even begin to understand. Jake clenched his fists, frustration boiling over. We're not afraid. Just tell us what you know. The figure remained silent, their expression unreadable. Just as Emma thought the moment would stretch on indefinitely, they turned and motioned for them to follow. If you want answers, come with me, but once you step through, there's no going back. Emma exchanged a glance with Jake and the woman, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. What choice did they have? They had come this far, and the truth was within their grasp. As they followed the figure deeper into the shadows, Emma felt the weight of the past pressing down on her. A swirling vortex of emotions and unanswered questions. The shadows shifted, drawing them further into the unknown. And as they crossed the threshold into another dimly lit room, the air buzzed with an electric charge. It felt as though they were stepping into a realm where time blurred, a place where echoes of the past intertwined with their present. Welcome to the heart of the gallery, the figure said, gesturing to the room filled with dusty memorabilia and art. This is where it all began, and where it will all end. The weight of their words hung heavy in the air, leaving Emma with a gnawing sense of dread. They were no longer just seeking answers. They were unwittingly stepping into a web of intrigue that could change their lives forever. As Emma stepped into the room, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows seemed to stretch and contract, swirling around them like a living entity. Old paintings lined the walls, their subjects staring down with hollow eyes that felt all too aware of the group's presence. In the center, a large ornate table was cluttered with yellowed newspaper clippings, photographs, and an assortment of peculiar artifacts, each whispering untold stories. The figure gestured for them to approach the table. Here lies the history you seek, they said, their voice echoing softly in the silence. Emma's heart raced as she scanned the artifacts. Among them, a faded photograph caught her eye. Isaiah, standing beside a girl with long hair that cascaded like a waterfall. The warmth of the sunlight caught them in the frame, their smiles frozen in time, but there was something unsettling about the girl's expression. Who is she? Emma asked, pointing at the photograph, her voice trembling with curiosity and fear. The figure stepped closer, their shadow merging with the flickering light. That's Rebecca, they replied, their voice low and gravelly. Isaiah's first love, the one who vanished without a trace. Her disappearance is tied to this gallery, and to him. Vanished? Jake echoed, his brow furrowing. What do you mean? What happened to her? Rebecca was never seen again after a gallery event, just like how you've searched for Isaiah. Rumors say she was last seen with him, but the truth was buried deep. The figure's eyes glimmered in the dim light, and Emma felt an unsettling chill creep up her spine. "What do you know about her?" Emma pressed, desperate for answers. "We need to know how this connects to Isaiah." The figure leaned closer to the table, their expression shadowed. "The truth isn't what you want to hear. It's a tale woven with jealousy and betrayal, one that unfolds like a dark tapestry." With a sudden urgency, the figure began to sift through the documents. The gallery held secrets that night, secrets that echo through time. They pulled out a crumpled newspaper article, yellowed with age. This article details the night of the gala, the night both Isaiah and Rebecca disappeared. Witnesses reported strange noises coming from the gallery's basement, a sound that matched the haunting melody you heard, but no one had the courage to investigate. "Why not?" Emma asked, her curiosity piqued. The thought of uncovering a long-buried secret sent a thrill through her. "Fear," the figure replied, their voice barely a whisper. "Fear of what they might find, or what might find them." Jake stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the article. "We can't just stand here. We have to go to the basement. If there are answers down there, we need to uncover them." The figure hesitated, their expression darkening. "The basement is not for the faint of heart. Many have ventured down and never returned, lost to the shadows. What you seek may come at a cost." Emma's heart pounded in her chest. The weight of the unknown loomed large. "We're not afraid," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We owe it to Isaiah and to Rebecca." "Very well," the figure said reluctantly, gesturing towards a door at the far end of the room. "But remember, once you step into the darkness, there's no turning back. The past has a way of holding on, and it won't let go easily." With a shared glance of determination, Emma, Jake, and the woman moved towards the door. It creaked ominously as they pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit staircase spiraling down into the abyss. Each step felt heavy with anticipation, the air thickening with dread as they descended deeper into the gallery's bowels. As they reached the bottom, a musty scent enveloped them, mingling with the coldness that seeped into their bones. The basement was larger than they expected, filled with old crates and furniture draped in sheets like ghosts waiting to be uncovered. The only source of light was a single bulb flickering overhead, casting erratic shadows that seemed to dance along the stone walls. "What now?" the woman asked, her voice trembling slightly. Emma felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. "Look for anything related to Rebecca," Jake suggested, scanning the dim room. "There must be something here that connects to Isaiah's story." As they began to search through the boxes, Emma's fingers brushed against a cold, metal object. Pulling it out, she discovered it was an old locket, tarnished with age. The moment she opened it, her breath caught in her throat. Inside was a photograph of Rebecca, the same girl from the faded picture upstairs, but beside her stood a familiar face, Isaiah. The connection sent shockwaves through her. "Look at this," Emma exclaimed, holding the locket out for Jake and the woman to see. "It's Rebecca and Isaiah." "Do you think they were?" The woman started but hesitated, fear creeping into her voice. "Maybe they were more than friends," Jake speculated, his brow furrowing. "What if their relationship went deeper? What if it led to her disappearance?" Just then, a loud crash echoed from the back of the basement, making them jump. The sound reverberated through the stone walls, sending a shiver down Emma's spine. "What was that?" she whispered, her heart racing. "I don't know," Jake replied, his eyes darting around the room. "But we should check it out." The three of them moved cautiously toward the source of the noise, their breaths shallow and quickening with each step. As they rounded the corner, they found an old, wooden door slightly ajar, creaking as if inviting them to enter. Emma exchanged anxious glances with her companions. "Should we go in?" the woman asked, her voice shaking. Jake nodded, determination etched on his face. "We came this far. We can't turn back now." With a deep breath, Emma pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit chamber. A chill swept through the room, sending goosebumps racing down her arms. In the center, an old recording device sat atop a dusty table, surrounded by stacks of papers. "What is this place?" Emma breathed, stepping inside. Jake moved closer to the recording device, his eyes narrowing with intrigue. It looks like some kind of archive. Maybe it holds answers about what happened to Rebecca and Isaiah. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught Emma's attention. She turned to see a shadow moving in the corner of her eye. Her heart raced as she strained to see through the dimness, a sense of dread washing over her. "Did you see that?" she whispered, panic rising in her throat. Jake looked up, his eyes wide. "What? What did you see?" Before she could respond, the lights flickered once more, and the room fell into a heavy silence. An overwhelming feeling of being watched enveloped them, the air thick with tension. "Something's not right," the woman said, her voice trembling. "I think we should leave." But Emma's curiosity overpowered her fear. "No, we can't leave. Not now. We're so close." As she turned back to the recording device, she noticed a small button on the side. With a mix of apprehension and determination, she pressed it. The machine whirred to life, and an eerie voice echoed through the chamber, sending chills down her spine. "Help me. I can't breathe. I'm trapped." The words were laced with desperation, an echo of a haunting plea that seemed to come from the depths of the past. Emma gasped, her heart racing. "It's Rebecca. She's trying to tell us something." As the voice faded, the shadows in the room deepened, and an unsettling stillness enveloped them. The truth was unraveling, and with it came a darkness they had yet to fully understand. Would they uncover the secrets of the past? Or would they become entangled in the very mystery that had claimed so many before them? The voice from the recording lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lay just beneath the surface. Emma felt a cold sweat trickle down her back as the realization settled in. They were on the brink of uncovering something monumental. But with that knowledge came an unsettling dread, a whispering fear that they might not be prepared for what they would find. "What did we just hear?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The weight of the moment hung heavily between them. "Is that really Rebecca?" "I think so," Emma replied, her pulse racing. "It sounded like she was in trouble. We need to find out more." The woman shivered, glancing around the dim chamber as if expecting shadows to come alive. "This is getting too creepy. What if we're not supposed to be here?" Emma shook her head, determination hardening in her resolve. "We can't back down now. If there's even a chance Rebecca's alive, or if she knows what happened to Isaiah, we have to keep digging." As they explored the room, Emma felt the oppressive atmosphere pressing down on them. Old papers littered the table, some hastily scribbled with notes and names, while others appeared to be forgotten artifacts of a time long past. She rifled through the documents, her hands trembling as she uncovered clues hidden beneath layers of dust. "Look at this," she called out to Jake and the woman. She held up a newspaper clipping, its headline bold and ominous, "Mysterious Disappearances Linked to Art Gallery Events." Below the headline was a grainy photo of a crowd gathered at a gala, the shadows of the night swallowing their features. "What does it say?" Jake leaned in closer, his eyes scanning the text. "It details a series of strange occurrences at the gallery, people going missing after attending events. The article mentions a connection between the artists and a secret society." Emma's voice trailed off, the implications of the words sinking in. "A secret society?" the woman echoed, her eyes wide with intrigue and fear. "What does that mean?" "It could mean that Rebecca and Isaiah stumbled onto something they weren't supposed to," Jake mused, his brow furrowed in thought. "Something dangerous." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from behind them, reverberating through the chamber. The trio jumped, hearts racing in sync as they exchanged terrified glances. "What was that?" Emma gasped, instinctively stepping closer to Jake, who gripped her hand tightly. "Stay here," he said, his voice steady despite the fear evident in his eyes. "I'll check it out." "No, we should stick together," Emma protested, her instincts screaming that they should leave. But Jake was already moving, taking cautious steps towards the source of the noise. With every creak of the old floorboards, the tension thickened in the air. Emma watched as he approached the door they had entered through. The doorknob rattled, and she felt a chill race down her spine. "Jake?" she whispered urgently. "Be careful." As Jake reached for the door, it swung open abruptly, revealing a figure shrouded in darkness. The room filled with an unsettling stillness as the figure stepped forward, their face obscured by shadows. Emma's heart raced as the figure spoke, their voice low and threatening. "You shouldn't have come here. the woman gasped, stepping back instinctively. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "I'm someone who knows the truth." The figure replied cryptically, taking another step forward. "And I know you're searching for it, but some truths are better left buried." "Why?" Emma challenged, her fear morphing into determination. "Is it because you're afraid of what we'll find?" A flicker of surprise crossed the figure's face, quickly replaced by a hardened expression. "You don't understand the danger you're inviting. This isn't just about the past, it's about a network that will stop at nothing to keep its secrets hidden." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, trying to gauge the figure's intentions. "Who are you protecting?" The figure hesitated, glancing at the door as if weighing their options. "There are forces at play here, ones that don't take kindly to snoopers. If you truly want to uncover what happened to Rebecca and Isaiah, you must tread carefully. Trust no one." With that ominous warning, the figure turned and vanished into the shadows, leaving Emma and Jake reeling from the encounter. "Did that just happen?" the woman breathed, her voice shaking. "I think we need to leave," Jake said, looking around the room with urgency. "This is getting too dangerous." "But we can't go now," Emma argued, her desire for answers battling against her growing unease. "We're so close. We can't just walk away without knowing what happened to them." "We'll come back," Jake promised, pulling Emma gently toward the door. "But right now, we need to regroup and figure out our next move. We're not safe here." Reluctantly, Emma nodded, knowing deep down that they were in over their heads. As they made their way back up the stairs, a sense of dread followed them, like a dark cloud hovering just out of sight. Once back in the main gallery, the atmosphere felt different. The air was charged, and a palpable tension hung over them. The unsettling encounter with the shadowy figure loomed in Emma's mind. "What do we do now?" the woman asked, glancing nervously around the gallery. "We need to find out more about this secret society," Jake replied, his voice steady. "If they're involved, we need to know how deep this goes. Maybe we can find more information in the library or online," Emma suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. As they made their way toward the exit, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Shadows flickered in her peripheral vision, and the weight of the unknown pressed heavily upon her. Just as they reached the door, a loud crash echoed behind them again, louder this time. Emma spun around, her heart racing as she stared into the darkness of the gallery. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. But before anyone could respond, a figure burst through the shadows. This time, it was not a threat, but a desperate plea for help. "Help me!" a voice cried out, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. It was a girl, soaked in sweat and trembling, her eyes wide with fear. "Who are you?" Jake demanded, stepping forward protectively. "Please, you have to listen. They're coming for me." The girl's voice was frantic, her gaze darting around the room as if expecting something monstrous to emerge from the shadows. Emma's heart sank. This was the moment they had been waiting for, yet it felt as though they had crossed a line from which there was no return. "Who's coming?" Emma asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. The girl looked at them with desperation, her expression pleading. "The society, they know you're here. They can't let you uncover the truth. You need to run." Before Emma could ask anything more, the girl turned and bolted into the darkness, her footsteps echoing as she disappeared down a side hallway. "Wait," Emma shouted, but it was too late. "Should we follow her?" the woman asked, her voice trembling. "No," Jake replied firmly. "We have to get out of here. This is bigger than we thought, and I don't want to risk getting trapped in whatever nightmare is unfolding." As they exited the gallery, Emma felt a chilling certainty wash over her. They were on the precipice of a revelation, but the forces that wanted to keep the past buried were rising up against them. In their pursuit of the truth, they had awakened something dark, and it was only a matter of time before it struck back. With every step away from the gallery, Emma felt the weight of the impending storm. The danger was real, the stakes had never been higher, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being hunted, not just by the shadows of the past, but by something much more sinister lurking just out of sight. The streets outside felt foreign, wrapped in an unsettling silence that seemed to echo the tension brewing inside Emma's chest. She could still hear the girl's voice pleading for help, and the weight of their unfinished business at the gallery pressed down on her. "Did you see the look in her eyes?" Emma said, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. "She was terrified, like she knew something we don't." Jake nodded, his jaw set in determination. "That's why we need to find her. If she knows something, we can't afford to ignore it. But we have to be smart about this." "Smart? We've already put ourselves in danger by investigating the gallery," the woman chimed in, glancing nervously over her shoulder as if expecting someone to follow. "What if whoever is after her comes after us next?" Emma shivered at the thought, the cold grip of fear tightening around her heart. "We can't just abandon her. She needs our help." "We'll find her," Jake assured, gripping Emma's shoulder reassuringly. "But first, we need a safe place to regroup and figure out our next steps." As they walked through the dimly lit streets, Emma's mind raced. Where could they go that was both safe and hidden from the prying eyes of the society that was now hunting them? "Maybe we could head to my place," Emma suggested. "It's secluded, and my parents are away for the weekend." "Good idea," Jake replied, glancing around as they navigated through the darkened alleyways. "Let's hurry. We need to come up with a plan." With their hearts racing, they made their way to Emma's house, the weight of their situation pressing heavily upon them. Each step felt like a countdown, each shadow casting doubts in their minds. Upon arriving, Emma quickly ushered them inside, locking the door behind her. "We're safe for now," she said, though her heart was pounding with uncertainty. The living room was dim, illuminated only by the glow of the streetlights filtering through the curtains. As they settled into the worn couches, Emma pulled out her phone and opened the recording app, her fingers trembling. "Let's listen to the audio again. There might be something we missed." Jake and the woman leaned in closer, their faces taut with concentration, as Emma played the recording of Rebecca's voice. The words echoed eerily, painting a vivid picture of dread and urgency. "I can't stay here." Rebecca's voice crackled through the speakers. "They're watching. You don't understand what they're capable of. I've seen things." "What things?" Emma murmured, her breath hitching as the suspense hung thick in the air. "Things that can destroy lives. They won't stop until they have what they want." The recording cut off abruptly, leaving a chilling silence in its wake. What could she have seen? Jake wondered aloud, his brow furrowed. And what did she mean by "they won't stop"? Before Emma could respond, the sudden sound of footsteps outside sent a jolt of fear coursing through her. She held her breath, straining to hear over the pounding of her heart. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her eyes darting toward the window. Jake nodded, his expression tense. "It sounded like someone's walking around outside. We need to be quiet." They held their breath, listening intently as the footsteps approached, then paused just outside the door. Emma felt her stomach drop, dread pooling in her gut. "Do you think it's the society?" the woman asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Jake replied, his eyes scanning the darkened room. "But we can't take any chances." Emma quickly grabbed her phone, flipping off the screen to minimize light. They huddled together, waiting in anxious silence, the sound of their breathing loud against the oppressive quiet. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the footsteps moved away from the door, fading into the distance. Emma let out a shaky breath, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety wash over her. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We need to keep a low profile," Jake replied, glancing at the windows. "But we also need to figure out who's after us and what they want." Emma nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "What if we go back to the gallery tomorrow? Maybe we can find more clues, or even locate that girl." "Going back there might be too risky," Jake cautioned, his brow furrowed in thought. "But we can't leave the girl behind either. There's gotta be a way to uncover the truth without putting ourselves in danger." "Let's think it through," the woman suggested, her voice steadying. "We can check the news for any updates about missing people or recent events at the gallery. If this secret society is involved, there might be something we can use." Emma agreed, pulling out her laptop and booting it up. As the screen flickered to life, a sense of urgency filled the room. They had to act fast, especially if there was a chance that Rebecca, or the girl from the gallery, was still in danger. As they searched through news articles and reports, the atmosphere thickened with suspense. Each click of the mouse felt like an invitation to a world of secrets and danger, one that might change their lives forever. "What about this?" Emma said suddenly, pointing at a headline that caught her eye. "Mysterious disappearances linked to local art community. Authorities warn of possible connections." "Let me see." Jake leaned closer, his expression shifting from curiosity to shock as he read the details. "This mentions an artist who went missing last year. He was last seen at a gallery event." "Do you think he's connected to Rebecca or Isaiah?" Emma wondered aloud. "It's possible. We need to dig deeper." But before they could continue, the ominous sound of glass shattering erupted from the kitchen, cutting through their conversation like a knife. "What was that?" Emma gasped, adrenaline flooding her veins as she felt a primal urge to flee. "Stay here," Jake ordered, his voice steady but urgent. "I'll check it out." "No, I'm coming with you," Emma insisted, her heart racing as they moved toward the kitchen together, the shadows of the house growing darker with every step. As they rounded the corner, they froze in horror. The kitchen window had been smashed, shards of glass littering the floor. A cold breeze rushed through the opening, swirling around them like an unseen specter. "Someone's been here," Jake whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, they heard a soft rustling sound behind them, and they turned to see a dark figure slipping through the back door. "Get down!" Emma shouted, instinctively pushing the woman behind her as they ducked low, hearts pounding in unison. The figure paused, silhouetted against the dim light from the street. For a heartbeat, they remained frozen in place, the tension in the air electrifying. "Who are you?" Jake demanded, his voice low and fierce. The figure hesitated before stepping forward into the light, revealing a familiar face. "It's me," the girl from the gallery exclaimed, her face pale and eyes wild with fear. "You have to help me." Emma's heart raced as she exchanged glances with Jake. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the chance to uncover the truth behind the shadows that haunted them. But at what cost? "Rebecca?" Emma breathed, her heart hammering in her chest as the girl from the gallery stepped into the flickering light of the kitchen. The girl's disheveled appearance, matted hair, dirt-smudged cheeks, and wide, terrified eyes made Emma's heart ache. "Is it really you?" Jake added, moving cautiously toward her. "We thought you were in danger." "What happened?" Rebecca glanced nervously over her shoulder, as if expecting someone to follow her at any moment. I don't have much time," she stammered, her voice trembling. "They're coming for me." "Who's coming for you?" Emma pressed, instinctively stepping closer to comfort the girl, her maternal instincts kicking in. "The society," Rebecca whispered, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "They know I'm here. They can't let me tell anyone what I saw." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. The society, the mysterious group whose influence loomed like a shadow over the art community, had made their presence felt, but this was the first time someone had directly linked them to such a terrifying fate. "Tell us what you saw," Jake urged, leaning closer, his eyes steady on Rebecca. "We need to know if we can help you." Rebecca took a shaky breath, glancing nervously around the kitchen, as if the walls themselves were eavesdropping. "I was at the gallery that night," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I saw something I shouldn't have, something that could ruin them." "What did you see?" Emma asked, her pulse quickening. Rebecca hesitated, her gaze darting to the broken window as if the night itself was listening. "There was a meeting, a secret gathering of the society. They were discussing eliminating someone." "Who?" Jake pressed, his brow furrowing with concern. "I didn't hear the name, but they mentioned a threat. Someone who knew too much," Rebecca continued, her hands trembling. "And then I saw Isaiah. He was there, and I knew he was in trouble." Emma felt her stomach twist. Isaiah, lost in the murky depths of the society's entanglements. "What happened to him?" Rebecca's face darkened, and she looked down, guilt washing over her. "I couldn't just stand there. I tried to warn him, but he wouldn't listen. He thought I was overreacting, that I was being paranoid." "Then what?" Emma urged, needing to hear the full story. "Then, I don't know." Rebecca's voice broke, tears spilling from her eyes. "I left, but I knew something terrible had happened. I found him the next day, and then I realized they were after me too. I'm the only one who knows what really went on that night." The revelation hung in the air like a storm cloud, dark and ominous. Emma exchanged a glance with Jake, the weight of Rebecca's words settling heavily upon them. "What did they want from you?" Jake asked, his tone urgent. "They wanted to keep everything under wraps," Rebecca replied, her voice shaking. "Anyone who knows too much is a target. I barely escaped the gallery when I heard footsteps behind me." "Why did you come here?" Emma asked, her heart racing with concern for the girl. "It's not safe. I didn't know where else to go," Rebecca admitted, her voice barely a whisper. I thought you might help me. I couldn't stay in my apartment. I didn't want them to find me." Jake stepped forward, determination shining in his eyes. "We will help you, but we need a plan. We can't let them get to you again." Suddenly, the sound of tires screeching outside shattered the tense atmosphere. Emma's breath hitched, and she felt her heart drop as the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps approached the back door. "They're here!" Rebecca gasped, her eyes widening in panic. "We need to hide!" "Quick!" Jake grabbed Rebecca's arm, pulling her toward the pantry. Emma followed, heart racing as they squeezed into the small space, surrounded by the smell of stale bread and forgotten spices. They huddled together, listening intently as the footsteps grew louder, echoing ominously through the kitchen. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she held her finger to her lips, urging silence. The doorknob rattled, and Emma's heart raced as she exchanged glances with Jake and Rebecca. Were they ready to confront the unknown? Just then, the door swung open, and the kitchen light flooded the pantry, illuminating their hiding place. "Damn it!" a voice growled from the doorway. "They must be here somewhere." Emma's heart raced as she recognized the voice, the same one that had haunted her dreams since she first discovered the society's secrets. "We'll search the house," another voice suggested. "They can't have gotten far." "Check the windows," the first voice commanded, footsteps echoing as they fanned out through the house. Emma held her breath, fear gripping her as the intruders began to search through the rooms, their movements methodical and ruthless. "What are we going to do?" Rebecca whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of Emma's heart. "Stay quiet," Jake hissed, his eyes sharp with focus. "We'll wait for them to leave." Time seemed to stretch into eternity as they waited in silence, the darkness pressing in around them. Each second felt like a countdown, the air thick with tension. Emma's mind raced with thoughts of what could happen if they were discovered. Could they fight their way out? Or would they end up like Isaiah? Just as Emma began to lose hope, the voices grew distant, the sounds of footsteps fading away. "Search the basement. I'm telling you, they're in here somewhere," the first voice shouted, frustration evident in his tone. "Let's check upstairs," another voice replied. Emma's heart sank. They were running out of time. "We need to make a break for it," she whispered urgently, while they're distracted. Jake nodded, determination flooding his gaze. "On three, we'll slip out the back door and head for the alley." Emma took a deep breath, nodding as she squeezed Rebecca's hand. 1, 2, 3. They burst from the pantry, darting toward the back door just as the voices shifted upstairs. The adrenaline coursed through Emma's veins as they raced out of the house, the cool night air hitting them like a wave of freedom. But as they bolted down the steps and into the alley, a chilling realization struck Emma. They weren't safe yet. The society was out there, and their fight for survival had only just begun. The darkness wrapped around them like a cloak, concealing their frantic escape. But Emma knew the danger had only just begun. She cast one last glance at the house, the flickering lights behind the windows a stark reminder of the peril they faced. "Where to now?" Jake asked, his breath coming in quick gasps as they rounded the corner. "We need to find somewhere safe," Emma replied, her mind racing. "Somewhere we can figure out our next move." As they sprinted down the deserted streets, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, the eyes of the society lingering just out of sight. They were caught in a web of secrets, and the only way out was to confront the darkness head-on. With resolve burning in her chest, Emma knew they had to push forward, no matter the cost. The truth awaited them, and with it the chance to save not just Rebecca, but themselves as well. The night was far from over, and danger lurked at every turn, but they were determined to uncover the mysteries hiding in the shadows. The air was thick with tension as Emma, Jake, and Rebecca sprinted down the dimly lit alley, the sounds of their hurried footsteps echoing off the brick walls. Emma's heart raced, a mixture of fear and determination surging through her veins. The shadows seemed to stretch and claw at them, threatening to pull them back into the clutches of the society. "Where are we going?" Rebecca gasped, glancing back over her shoulder, as if expecting the figures from the house to appear at any moment. "There's an old storage unit a few blocks from here," Jake replied, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. "It should be empty this late at night. We can hide there and figure out our next move." "Will they find us?" Rebecca's eyes were wide with fear, and Emma felt a pang of empathy for the girl. She was just a kid caught in a nightmare of adults' making. "They'll be looking for us," Emma said, forcing herself to sound braver than she felt. "But we'll outsmart them. We have to." As they rounded a corner, Emma spotted the familiar metal door of the storage unit just ahead. The sight filled her with a mix of relief and dread. Would they really be safe there? Or was it just a temporary hiding place in a game that felt increasingly stacked against them? They reached the storage unit, and Jake quickly punched in the code, the metal door creaking open with an unsettling groan. They slipped inside, the darkness swallowing them as they huddled together, breathless. Inside the unit, Emma fumbled for her phone, desperate for some light. As she turned on the flashlight, the beam illuminated rows of forgotten boxes and furniture draped in dusty tarps. The air was stale, filled with the scent of mildew, but it was a sanctuary compared to the chaos outside. "Now what?" Rebecca whispered, her voice trembling as she peered around, still haunted by their narrow escape. "First, we need to catch our breath," Jake replied, his brow furrowed in thought. "Then we need to figure out how to expose the society. If they're really behind Isaiah's death, we can't just sit here." Emma nodded, adrenaline coursing through her. "Rebecca, you said they were talking about eliminating someone. We need to know who else is in danger. If we can find evidence, something concrete to take to the police." But before she could finish her thought, a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by shouts. Emma's heart dropped, and she exchanged a glance with Jake and Rebecca. "They found us," Jake breathed, his voice low and urgent. "We need to hide." Quickly, they moved behind a stack of crates, hearts pounding as the voices grew louder, mingled with the sound of footsteps approaching the storage unit. "Check the units. They can't have gone far," a familiar voice barked, sending chills down Emma's spine. It was the same voice from before, the one she had heard inside her home. Panic gripped her, but she forced herself to remain still, breathing quietly as they listened. "We know you're in there," another voice shouted. "Come out, and we'll make this easy for you." Emma squeezed her eyes shut, desperation washing over her. They couldn't afford to be caught, not now. "What do we do?" Rebecca whimpered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Shh," Jake hissed, his eyes scanning the small space. "We wait for them to pass. We can't let them see us." The tension in the air was palpable as they held their breath, the footsteps approaching closer and closer. Emma's mind raced with fear. Would they find them here? What would happen if they did? Just then, the metal door to the storage unit swung open, the light from the outside spilling into their dark haven. Emma's heart raced as she strained to hear through the din. "Spread out," the leader commanded, and Emma could see the silhouettes of two figures entering the unit, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. "Is this really necessary?" one of them asked, sounding uncertain. "What if we're wrong?" "They know too much," the leader snapped. "We can't take any chances." Emma's heart dropped as she realized the urgency of their situation. They had stumbled into something far more dangerous than they had anticipated. The society was willing to go to extreme lengths to protect their secrets, and now they were in their crosshairs. Just as the figures moved closer, Emma felt a surge of adrenaline. "We need to move," she whispered urgently, "while they're distracted." Jake nodded, gripping Rebecca's arm tightly. They quietly slipped out from behind the crates, taking care to stay low and avoid the beam of the flashlights. Every step felt like a risk, but Emma's resolve pushed her forward. They had to escape. As they made their way toward the door, a loud crash resounded from the other side of the unit, sending shivers down Emma's spine. "Did you hear that?" one of the men exclaimed. "Check over there," the leader barked. pointing in their direction. Emma felt her pulse quicken. They were running out of time. They had to act fast. With her heart pounding in her chest, Emma dashed toward the door, pulling Jake and Rebecca along with her. Just as they reached the threshold, the leader turned, catching a glimpse of them. "There they are," he shouted, lunging toward them. "Run!" Jake yelled, and they bolted out of the unit, the night air hitting them like a cold wave. Emma's feet pounded against the pavement as they sprinted into the darkness, adrenaline surging through her. Behind them, the angry shouts of the men echoed, the pursuit relentless. "Where to?" Rebecca gasped, her breath coming in ragged bursts. "Left!" Jake shouted, pointing down a narrow alley. They darted into the shadows, pressing themselves against the cold brick wall, hearts racing as they waited for the sounds of pursuit to fade. "What now?" Emma panted, her eyes wide with fear. "We can't keep running," Jake said, glancing around, the determination in his eyes returning. "We need a plan. We need to confront the society and expose them." "Are you crazy?" Rebecca exclaimed, her voice trembling. "They'll kill us." "We can't let fear control us anymore," Emma said firmly, feeling a surge of bravery. "Isaiah deserves justice, and we can't let them silence us." The sound of footsteps grew closer, the shadows stretching and closing in around them. Emma knew time was running out. "Let's go back to the gallery," Jake suggested, his mind racing. "If we can find evidence of what they're doing, we can bring it to the police. They won't ignore it if we have proof." "Are you sure it's safe?" Rebecca asked, fear evident in her voice. "It's our only option," Emma replied, steeling her resolve. "We can't back down now." With renewed determination, they slipped out of their hiding spot and dashed toward the gallery, the night closing in around them. As they approached the building, the familiar sight of the entrance loomed before them, shrouded in darkness. "Ready?" Jake asked, glancing at Emma and Rebecca. Emma nodded, her heart racing as they pushed through the door. The gallery was empty, a ghostly silence hanging in the air, but they had come too far to turn back now. "Let's split up," Jake suggested. "We can cover more ground that way. Meet back here in 10 minutes. Emma nodded, knowing time was of the essence. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to push down the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. As she moved through the dimly lit rooms, memories of Isaiah flooded her mind. She couldn't let his death be in vain. She had to find the truth, no matter the cost. The haunting silence echoed around her as she searched for any clue that could expose the society. Every creak of the floorboard sent her heart racing, every shadow flickering in the corners of her vision, a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond reach. Just then, Emma spotted something glinting in the corner of her eye, a folder left behind on one of the pedestals, half hidden under a sheet. With trembling hands, she reached for it, heart pounding in anticipation. As she opened the folder, her breath caught in her throat. Inside were documents, contracts, names, and plans detailing the society's activities, their intricate web of manipulation laid bare before her. But just as she began to grasp the magnitude of what she had found, she heard footsteps approaching from behind. Emma's blood ran cold as she turned, dread pooling in her stomach. The door swung open, and a figure stepped into the light, silhouetted against the dark. "Emma." The voice sent chills down her spine. It was the leader of the society, a predatory smile stretching across his face. "I thought we'd find you here." Time seemed to freeze as Emma realized she was trapped. Her heart raced as the leader advanced, and she felt the weight of fear threatening to pull her under. "Now, let's have a little chat about your little escapades," he said, the amusement clear in his tone. "You've made quite the mess." As Emma stood frozen in place, she knew one thing for certain. The truth was out there, but would she be able to reveal it before it consumed her? The shadows had gathered, and the confrontation was inevitable. But in that moment, she felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't alone. Jake and Rebecca would be searching for her, and together, they could confront the darkness that threatened to engulf them. "Let's see if you're as brave as you claim," the leader taunted, stepping closer. "The night is young, and we have so much to discuss." Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the folder in her hands. She would fight for Isaiah, for Rebecca, for herself. The truth was her weapon, and she was determined to wield it, no matter the cost. The shadows loomed large, but in that darkness she found the strength to confront her fears. This battle was just beginning, and the echoes of desire would lead her down a path of revelation and reckoning. The confrontation had begun, and there was no turning back now. Please like the video and subscribe the channel, and click on bell icon.